Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero, sugo, todo sa kayod, punong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing giting at tigil.
This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek, Cholo as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn. Munchin' with us every Thursdays from 4 to 6, only here on Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
What's poppin', and welcome to Popcorn with Cholo and your stop for all things pop, where we talk about all things pop culture from here in the Philippines to the rest of the globe. At may nagbabalik tayong special correspondent sa...
Back again.
Yeah, she's back in the house. Guess who's back in the house? Welcome.
As
Welcome
usual,
back,
resident Taylor Swift advisor na, regular consultant.
Yes.
For all things Swiftian.
Kung di nyo pa mahulaan, ano yung topic of the day, it's Evermore by Taylor Swift, which is kind of long overdue. May mga nag-request sa Twitter, aka isang tao lang, pero I consider that already requests. Na parang,
In demand na yun, in demand
na mga fans ni Nat. So, pagbigyan natin sila. Well, I've been meaning to have this, but unfortunately, dalawa lang tayo today, but that's not gonna stop us from talking about our favorite female pop superstar, or not just pop, but like all genres. And yeah.
Yes.
So, kamusta naman before we begin? How's everything for those who haven't?
I was about to say, yeah, that for example, like walking here with a mask on, listening to either Folklore and then Evermore has been an experience. Like it's
And nag-winter pa,
pandemic
diba?
album
Nag-snow,
right off the bat. Yeah, exactly. So, alam mo yung seasons, and you know how Red before was a very fall song.
Yeah.
And ito rin medyo fall-winter ulit. So you feel that album, you take it out for a walk, you let it sort of breathe into your daily activities at home, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna go on later about like that I love it.
Well, there's a lot to love, and of course, what's not to love. But I guess we should go ahead and talk about the album. Wala na tayong ibang pag-uusapan pa.
Mhm.
Let us go. I guess we have to start saying that last year was another amazing year for Taylor Swift. Dahil, of course, we were shocked with the drop of Folklore, whose Popcorn episode you can listen to on all streaming platforms. Lunag natin yan. So that was a surprise. And then she went ahead and dropped Folklore, the Long Pond studio sessions, which was more of the first performance she had since walang concerts, all that. You know, what else can you do but release your own documentary / intimate performance? And that was on Disney Plus. Uh,
Ayan.
ayun. I guess we can talk about that
Ayan,
briefly.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so ayun, parang that uh documentary, like mini documentary. It's not a super,
Yeah.
like a super formal documentary, but more like behind the scenes or behind the songs. I really appreciated that. For one, stripped down versions and seeing Taylor perform those songs. Kasi hindi na siya hindi na siya nagpo-promote masyado the way she used to. Like, she's not really on shows performing those songs. And to have a whole set of just her singing that is ang ganda ng mga renditions, stripped down renditions, I would say. So yeah, I mean, Long Pond studio sessions. It was nice seeing the process behind Folklore, which is one of the best albums of 2020 for sure. It was named Rolling Stone's best album of the year. And yun, ang ganda. Ang daming magandang insights na you wouldn't really know unless you watched it. For example, she officially revealed na William Bowery is actually Joe Alwyn.
I called it. I called that.
You
Remember
did. You did.
in our last call, I said I was so sure.
And what amazes me about him being William Bowery or WB is that he's so musically talented pala na he wrote all
He
those lyrics.
is.
And even like the piano in Exile, siya rin yun. And, that's without Taylor. And you would understand even further why Taylor would like this guy because, they can make songs
Yeah.
together. They can make an album together. And this
Yeah.
is one of like her best work yet, right?
Yeah, based on some interviews, when I get to hear his voice, right, Joe, like he speaks in such a low, very calm, very. I mean, he's not a person of a lot of words. He seems to be very reserved, like based on just his Hollywood interviews, and I think it's so interesting to see a side of him that has this creative streak, and to complement, his girlfriend's creativity. And I think that like ang swerte nila, no, 'di ba, yung parang sana all my jowa na
I
ganon,
know,
who
right?
can push you and who could be a catalyst for your creative process. And when like I imagine mo yung bonding nila is just like writing breakup music, like
Imagine
how.
maybe down the line if they do get married, like what if they make a Swift Alwyn album na silang dalawa lang yung gumawa ng mga kanta. Like that's not
Exactly.
like a possibility we can put off the list because you never know what they're gonna come up with next, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting that right, Taylor mentions his piano, that he can play the piano, and him writing lyrics. Like, I don't know, I've never written lyrics. Like, I write, essays and so on, but to have a level of poetry that would complement her style and also put her to see new things. I think that's such a great like partnership. And imagine being in lockdown, you're with someone all the time, and that just gives you that environment to either really focus intensely and either love it or hate it, what's coming out of that process.
Yeah. And parang coming off of that, ang daming magandang insights for the other songs. I think in particular, if you do get to watch it on Disney Plus or wherever you want to watch it, it's not mentioned where, but maganda rin yung explanation niya on Mirror Ball. Ayun yung pinaka naaalala ko. The way it reflects how, the entertainment industry also during the pandemic na nawala yung lights and
It was after Lover Fest was canceled, right?
yeah.
She wrote it after the Lover Fest was canceled. Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, we've already done a whole analysis episode on Folklore, so listen to that, but go and watch that as well if you want more insight on the rest of the album. But just like that, after we were like, oh, this is such a treat. We have a full 2 hours of Taylor singing Folklore, explaining Folklore. She just randomly posted, oh, nothing much happening at the moment, which we thought was alluding to that documentary. But apparently it was alluding to even more because she announced Evermore, which is her second surprise album of 2020. and her ninth studio album, made just around the same time that they were filming the Long Pond studio sessions, because they were that was the first time Taylor, Aaron Dessner, and Jack Antonoff all came together in one place physically. Kasi diba, Folklore was made uh, in remotely, like in different places wherever they
Sending
were at that
files,
time.
exchanging parts of the song. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's amazing for one. Na parang you can just create an album that easily, quote unquote easily. I mean, it's not easy, obviously, but the way technology could help the production. Na kunwari, you're in Spain, I'm in the Philippines, but we get to talk about this. It's kind of like that, but
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
different level, writing music. But ayun na nga, parang they're like, might as well, we're here, let's make a whole new album,
Yeah.
right? So ayun, na-surprise ako dun.
Exactly.
I mean, I was like in the middle of parang giving delivering gifts to my friends, and one of my that friend was like, "Oh, look at this! Taylor Swift has announced her album." I was like, "What? Please give me some." And that was in the middle.
What?
That was in the middle of a K-pop comeback na I was still invested in emotionally. I
Ah,
was,
yes.
yeah, NCT 2020 Part 2 was being promoted that time. So yun yung headspace ko na parang, okay, I'll enjoy this comeback. Kasi before that was Taylor Swift, so push aside yung K-pop for a while for Folklore, and then bumalik ako, and I was like, okay, I'm dropping that first and going back to Evermore. So ayun, that was me hearing about it. Ikaw, like,
It took me a day. So it took me a day. So I saw the news. Came out like basta pagising ko meron na, ganun basically. Pagising ko nandun na. But I really told myself I'm gonna hold on from casually listening to it because
yeah,
especially with Taylor Swift, when an album comes out, I listen to it in full and like, you're just focused on it. It's a listening session. I try to do that rather than having my first impressions, like, just hearing it in the background. And I think my listening process is that I first start with, I put it on my TV, I lock myself in my room, and I listen. And then in the upcoming days, when I'm doing errands, when I'm washing the dishes, when I'm going to the grocery, I have it on. And
yeah,
I think now that you have that sort of companionship with the album, it's really something that grew on me even more, because on first listen, I think compared to Folklore, Evermore I liked a lot more. So right off the bat, first impression, it was a lot nicer for me. I mean, I think with Folklore I liked it, but it grew a lot more versus
yeah.
itong Evermore. I had a clear idea right away on the first listen which songs were my top picks, which ones were, like not so memorable for me. And so far they've stayed more or less the same. Like yung what I liked on my first impression until now, that's still sort of similar view with each and every track.
Yeah, I agree with you on the way I'd listen to these two albums specifically. Well, of course, Evermore was announced to be the sister album or sister record of Folklore because she just couldn't get out of that world, as she said in her announcement post. Na she felt like there were more stories to be told from that world, and who wouldn't want 30 new Taylor Swift songs in 1 year, right? But
Yeah.
in terms of listening, it did take me a while to appreciate Folklore the first time because it was just so
It
a
was
bit.
different.
It was jarring from like Lover, coming from Lover, and then ito nga Evermore. It's a bit lighter because you know what to expect, but not
Yes.
really. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it took me a while, as you mentioned. Ako rin na parang I needed to like get away from the world and just like listen to it and appreciate it. Versus I the first times I listened to it, wala lang, passive listening lang, wala akong ma-take in, because these kinds of albums demand your like they're so meticulous that they demand your attention for you to be able to like take it
To
in,
appreciate the
appreciate it.
levels to it.
exactly.
I think there's a lot of nuance. Yeah, there's a lot of nuance. And listening to Evermore compared to Folklore, you already have that frame of reference of a sound palette. So you know sort of what, I guess, instrumental stylistic touches and textures on the track. And because you have that expectation, I guess it makes it easier and more accessible to form an opinion right away with Evermore. So I think yun nga, again, what I didn't expect was again the strong narratives. In fact, even more characters, more fully fleshed out plot lines, even. And I guess that's how it has like grown from Folklore. Like it's even more because you could tell with you, and Taylor Swift says this, is that she was not finished. She was not
Yeah.
finished. It's like walking into the woods and deciding, do we go deeper or do we go out?
Are we out
And
of
the
the
answer was to
woods
go
yet?
deeper.
No, we're not.
Exactly. Apparently not. And we're living for it, right? So you have this extension. And typically, when they say with movies, right, always the sequel is or
Yeah.
always the book is better than the movie, eh. But this one, I think this, like, you can look at Evermore on its own and think
Without
of it as a great
folklore.
album.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's really nice about it, uh, Taylor described it in a really, parang it makes a lot of sense. Na she described Folklore as an album set in spring and summer, while Evermore is an album
A
backdrop
colder
naman niya,
one, yeah.
fall and winter, which is like, wow, her mind again. Like, it makes so much sense thematically, with all, parang
Yeah.
Evermore is a bit more, parang the themes are a bit more deeper or sometimes even like darker at some points, and very ano nga, fall winter, na you'd imagine the sadness at
Mhm.
that point, as you mentioned, that you were walking in the snow listening to it. um but aside from that, any other general reactions on the album? I mean, also alluding to Folklore.
I mean, in general, like, since you mentioned seasons, what's interesting to see is that Taylor Swift, the way she approaches songwriting and her lyricism and even the overall sound, it's so rooted in time and history. So for her to imagine it specifically bound by a season, I think that makes a lot of sense. Because, for example, when she tells her narratives, some are a particular situation. So it's a very short term glimpse of a situation, versus other songs talk about a whole life, a whole relationship from start to finish.
Yeah.
And so I think Taylor Swift, in terms of the underlying philosophy of the albums, both of them, or even ever since, her starting with the earlier albums, she has a good understanding of time and how things change over time.
And how
So
she
you have that
changes,
sense of
right?
exactly. She's self-aware now. She knows, and I guess we'll go into this later with each song. But I think with Evermore and Folklore, in a sense, she understands that, in a relationship where it's uneven, when two people don't feel the same way about each other, it's possible that both people hurt each other, and there's not necessarily the aggressor and victim.
Hindi na
Because
siya,
if you look at her other
yeah,
pa-baby, 'di ba? Yung
yeah,
parang, "Oh, aray, nasaktan ako, this bad person," gano'n,
yeah.
like, but now she understands her, I guess, ano ba 'to, her autonomy to also possibly inflict hurt without meaning to. Like, just
Yeah.
because gano'n, because you're just two people who can't make the relationship work anymore, gano'n lang talaga. And, both of you are at fault, and you have no choice but to recognize this and move on. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just happened. Like, and I think that's now so interesting to see her understand her own capacity to hurt someone else, because
That,
we didn't really hear so much of that before.
yeah, I would agree. That's very, very mature and very adult of her to actually see that and put that into writing, because, as we've grown up with her, most of us at least. I mean, syempre mga Gen Zers are listening back, but at least for us millennials who are closer to her age, we also see ourselves in that regard, na, we our worldview has grown significantly, and you
Yeah.
see how you can approach situations, and this is an example of that. And speaking of that,
Yeah.
parang as you mentioned earlier, folklore, parang Evermore is on its own album na you can take that away and it would still make a lot of sense. But it's nice how, although there's a thumbprint na nga of folklore, it's still a very
Mhm.
experimental. She tries newer things and newer elements into this album as well. Na you enjoy na parang it's just not the same thing. It's even more. It's even
Yeah.
freer. She plays around more, and we get more characters and stories.
She brings back, even in terms of sound, she brings back her country roots. So in this
Yes.
album, I mean, you heard it in folklore, but in Evermore, I think you get more of a sense of the strings, of the string band, the banjo, just I think in terms of being more explicit about the country elements of folk. I think it shines more in this album.
Yeah, and I think I don't know where. Oh, I think it was from the Long Pond Studio sessions where she says na it's a very parang country fingerprint for her, parang for you to put yourself in another person's shoes. So I mean that's what she's been doing
Yeah.
in folklore palang with Rebecca and all the other characters and leading on to this album as well. So you can see na hindi lang to random na okay, let's get the folk pop genre which is really popular right now. But it's like an
Yeah.
amalgamation of all of Taylor Swift's experiences in the different genres she's done, and she just keeps on getting better.
Yeah. And
And
I think what's nice about, if you look starting from, sorry, when you
go
start
ahead.
looking from, I think we saw that shift. I think we saw that turn of maturity from Lover. I think that was the starting point. That was a definitive, because Reputation, you get a sense that, yeah, she's changed, she recognizes things, there's more power, it's a stronger idea of a person. But I think the maturity sets in with Lover, and it's just, I mean, patuloy-tuloy lang, and it's very, you grow along these albums. And as for the two of us who are sort of lifelong Swifties, diba, parang we realize too that our own music taste changes along with what we're presented with. Like, I mean, I like country and folk to a certain level of pop acceptability. So, for example, I enjoy listening Casey Musgraves, Maggie Rogers, Florence and the Machine. They have these female figures, but now you're start like when this album came out, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't realize how much I appreciated, for example, Carrie Underwood, wherein you would sense that also with the Haim sisters, right? So
Yeah.
you start to bring in all these different influences coming together to a mature album. And I think it's very dynamic. I've seen some critique nga that people found it boring. I saw one of the funniest critiques I read. It's a hug that lasted too long. But I don't know. I didn't feel that way. What do you think about it?
No, I don't agree either. I mean, honestly, we're biased, so we can't agree with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, yun na nga eh.
And did she overdo anything? Do you think?
Parang wala. Although there are some tracks that aren't the strongest, it doesn't feel as it
Yeah.
doesn't feel weak at all or like unfinished or just like a filler song. Everything
Yeah.
feels like its own thing. Although, syempre, I guess for those who aren't like hardcore Swifties or fans, you could feel that na, she might be overdoing it, but to me, she isn't. If there were rumors that there was a third album, I would have wanted to listen to that if she did come out. Although that would probably be, I mean, I don't know what enough would be at this point for the folklore saga. But yun, parang buo naman siya and ang dami ko pa rin nakuhang hugot doon. So parang if it wasn't anything substantial, then you wouldn't feel the pain or whatever emotion that
Yeah.
you'd want you to feel at that point. Ang daming sinabi.
Well, we've got a lot more.
Yeah, we're just at the beginning of it. But before we head to the rest of the album, syempre, grabe yung folklore, ang dami niyang nakuhang achievements. Let's just list some of the achievements since releasing Evermore. Um, well, she took the most Billboard Hot 100 entries for a female artist of all time, beating Whitney Houston. So I think she has like 113, if I'm not mistaken, or 100 plus. So, I mean, that's a feat already on its own. Aside from that, she now holds the record for the top two biggest female album debuts on US Spotify history with number one, Folklore, and number two, Evermore. Parang, okay, let's just take all the spots at the top, right? And right now, she's the most streamed female artist in the world on Spotify with almost 24 million plays every day. And finally, of course, all the Grammy nominations for Folklore. Congratulations for being nominated for Album of the Year, Best Pop Vocal Album Song of the Year for Cardigan. I wait, the doble yun. Best Pop Vocal Album and also Song of the Year for Cardigan, Best Pop Solo Performance for Cardigan, Best Pop Duo or Group Song, which for Exile, and a bonus addition to the nominations is Best Song Written for a Soundtrack, which is Beautiful Ghosts, which is something very underrated. I don't think a lot of people are aware of it because they didn't really like Cats, but it's a beautiful song, which you should all stream if you haven't yet. So yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and talk about Evermore one by one. Of course, it's the ninth studio album, and it was co-written with most of the same people in that Folklore album. So that's Aaron Dessner of the Nationals, Jack Antonoff, William Bowery, of course, that's Joe Alwyn. Justin Vernon comes back as Bon Iver, and with new guests, the whole the Nationals band is now in the album in one track, and also the Haim sisters. Hindi pala the Nationals, the National. Pinadami ko sila. And the Haim sisters are also here. So with that, let us begin our track by track review or like our thoughts on this album. Let's begin with the first track, which is Willow, which is also the lead single. This is like the transition to the extended world, even in the music video. Na it sets the pace, the tone, na parang magical or like, you know, let's continue the story. Let's follow the golden string. Like
It's that she enjoys the fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she right off the bat she shows that she enjoys the fantasy. She draws inspiration from different eras in history. Like you get a very sense of it's almost like a period piece, diba? Parang at least with the music video and also the song. What's interesting for me is that in the intro, it's right off you hear the strings. It's a string band. And you have that percussion beat driving the song. In terms of lead single, I'm not, for wala talaga siyang lead single na like I loved right away. Like none of her albums
I would
for
agree
the
with
lead
that.
single, I've never had a moment that I loved the lead single for some reason. Even with Cardigan last time, diba? I was like, okay,
Yeah,
it's a good
definitely.
song. It's a nice good song, nice music video. Okay, what's next? That tends to be my feeling, but I think it's a good opening.
Yeah, I mean, yun na nga eh, parang, you know, out of this whole album, I think the thought is more like just to choose something out of the rest and then like, hey, just listen to the whole thing, which is like so much better. Parang it's just like an invitation more than anything because how could you choose from all these really good tracks? Because I would agree with that nga na it's not the strongest, although it's a nice light song to listen to and like enjoy, but not necessarily something I actually listen to a lot of the time. Even with Cardigan, it's not it's not something na
Mhm.
I really go back to. It's not like a song na dadamdamin ko, ganun. And
Mm-mm.
that kind
I
of
think what's interesting with this song,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, yun nga,
What she has as a pattern. Oops, Oops! Ang hirap pag naka-zoom.
She has a pattern.
You go first. Okay. Ikaw na talaga, legit.
Mauna ka na
You
para
go.
lead into the next tracks yung akin.
The pattern of how she sings. Because basically, with Taylor Swift's voice, you have the low narration, na 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 na, and then there's a part that, and sorry hindi ako singer pero and then it suddenly goes to the breathy, airy. So you've got that contrast, which I think is very interesting. That when she is na 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 whatever so it's such a different register from the start to certain parts, and I think that gives you, I mean, it could almost be as if two people were singing the song, diba? So I think she has really leaned on this breathy, very airy part of her thing, and you will see that throughout the other tracks as well.
And I guess coming off of that, you would really see how she's improved vocally with that in lows and highs na she didn't really do as much before, right? In the earlier albums, which makes me so excited for the re-recordings because she's just gonna sound way better than she did how many years ago, right? But
More mature, yeah.
I mean, you could already. I'm not sure if you've heard it before, but may snippet na of Love Story, of the new version of Love Story.
Yes, I did hear it. I enjoyed it.
Diba? Parang it sounds like the same, but like much better even. So that brings the question of when will the re-recorded albums come out? We never know. She's just gonna drop out of nowhere for sure. Maybe tomorrow may
Just
bagong
gonna
album
drop it
tayo.
out and we're gonna freak out.
She's gonna be like, oh, it's been 5 months since Evermore. Let's just go release this new album. I mean, this re-recorded album. And that means she's already recorded up to the second album because she already has a Love Story, right? So we never know how deep she is into this process.
We never know. We never know.
It's just gonna come out and I'm not sure if we're gonna have a whole as per tradition track by track because but it's a nice like way to go back to the old albums na we listen to the re-recorded ones and like discuss it. So we'll see about that. But anyway, for Willow, honestly, I don't have much to say for the first 3 tracks. Feeling ko yun pa lang yung patikim ng album Willow, and then leading on to the second track which is Champagne Problems. Medyo pa lang ako dun pa lang ako sa, I'm trying to feel it. Even up till now, the first 3 tracks aren't really my favorites overall. I'm not sure about you, but ito Champagne Problems, it's a fan favorite. A lot of people like this song.
I love it. It's a top for me. Like for me, I'm the first, like aside just take out Willow and the first half, like I really enjoy a lot. I mean, for me, I enjoyed the first half more than the second half of the album, I think.
Talaga?
Like especially now with Champagne Problems. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this song so much because one, like if let's start with the narrative, right? Obviously, remember Taylor Swift also sang Love Story, and Love Story is about the triumphant moment wherein someone proposes, you say yes, happy ever after, and so on. But Champagne Problems obviously is, what if feelings are not equal? What if I love that, she recognizes it in the line, you never know the answer until someone gets on their knees to ask you, right? And
yes.
I mean, that's very possible. I mean, obviously, I cannot relate to that. Very, very single ako, but...
Okay, hanapan natin ng jowa. Saka
finding the unevenness. That unevenness of the relationship, again, is a theme throughout so many songs. And this time it's her who doesn't feel the same way about that person. And it's just such a like, this is a vivid scene versus,
Really
the
is.
other songs in this album are over several years, but this is one single night and what happens. And there are callbacks to college memories, diba? That they were in the dorm. This dorm was once a madhouse. I made a remark that it's made for me. And she paints herself. I was thinking a bit of, I don't know if this is a fair evaluation of the manic pixie dream girl, na parang wala, it's just wala lang, you cannot tie me down. It just doesn't work. I really think of 500 Days of Summer with this. It's just that, you can enjoy someone's company, you can like sort of be together for a while, but if when the question of commitment and the rest of your life is there, it's just no. And that's just sad that two people do not see eye to eye in that regard. And I think that's such a lovely handling of tragedy, wherein you have the supportive family who the sister spends on the bottle, the family are there to support, versus she also mentions the hometown skeptics who called it, who said ID and magkakatuluyan.
Because
And
she's F
there's
in the head, right?
exactly like mood 2021 mood.
Pero honestly,
Yeah, so
adding to what you said, for me, ang basa ko dito is more like, it's so mature for you to say no instead of wanting to say yes because someone's on his knees and asking
yeah,
you, and then spending the rest of your life not really being happy in this relationship. I think
yeah.
ang daming relationships, not personally, but I've seen people who've, who've been in a long relationship and then parang, paano na yun? Di mo na pala
Minsan
gusto,
lang.
di ba?
It was just the circumstance, right? And she mentions that very well when, she knows that people are telling her she's stupid for to say, I mean, the character knows she's being dumb by saying no because you've been together with this person. That's why, she's effed in the head. Who wouldn't say yes to someone you've been together for a long time with already, right? And I think, these are the like unexplainable things. You just don't have an answer. It's just this person is just not your forever. You like them, or maybe you even love them, but they're not forever. And that is completely possible. And Taylor Swift putting this now in the realm of her songwriting, I think it's really good. You've had love story. Now you have champagne problems. And like, if
It's
that
not
isn't,
all Romeo
you
and
know
Juliet.
her glow up, exactly, if that's not her glow up and songwriting maturity, like, that's two songs juxtaposed right away that shows you her range as a songwriter
And ang ganda lang
and
na
narrative writing.
very ironic how it's called champagne problems. Kasi, I mean, champagne problems in the colloquial, not colloquial, but what it means is basically, wala lang yan, mga issues that aren't really as big to
Yeah,
a general public, but to
a
the people,
bourgeois problem.
yeah, for the people involved, syempre, this is a big deal. But yun na nga parang hindi lang siya champagne problem because it might lead to like the bigger issues in the future. Should you say yes to that? Um, should you say yes to that proposal for one, right? You're just not gonna be happy. The other person will also not be
Yeah,
happy. I mean, at the end of the day, um you might be hurting this other person. Parang you might be hurting this other person right now, but in the parang you're setting them free also at the same time na di lang siya maliit na bagay. It's like something
yeah,
that you really give thought to, right?
yeah. And champagne is celebration. Like, you think you're gonna open the Don Perignon, but then it's like, nope. All your expectations of what, I mean, I'm really thinking of 500 Days of Summer, that expectations versus reality scene where Tom thinks that he's gonna get with Summer already, but it doesn't happen. And I think this is, in a way, already in a committed relationship, but still, this guy was denied his fairy tale ending, and there's just no reason for it. It's just the way it is, and it's tragic. but sometimes tragedy, and Taylor Swift recognizes this, tragedy is in sort of the mundane, inexplainable things that just you cannot think your way through it. You just know.
Ang ganda ng ano mo, juxtaposition mo with the 500 Days of Summer. Parang lang siyang Supercut and La La Land. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, that too. That too.
So that is Champagne Problems. We hope we don't get into that position of that long ass relationship that we don't really want to be. Pero yun na nga.
Don't stick around. Yun yung takeaway, don't stick around in something that, it just hurts other people also. I think that's a very important and mature thing to do. I mean, I know in the character she says she didn't recognize it until the question was there. But like, I think life is too short to stick around in situations that you don't want to be in anymore, or that you're not growing, or that you don't feel fulfilled in.
Yeah,
I think
you have to
that
know
is
when
a
you want
takeaway.
to leave.
Yeah.
And something
There are endings and know it's over.
Yeah, which we'll talk about more at the latter part of this conversation with track at the end. Let's go to the third song, which is Gold Rush. This figures into the whole theme of gold and being alluded to Joe Alwyn. 'Di ba parang ever since Lover, we've had these theories or like allusions to color, blue, gold, golden, red. I mean, ever since Red, obviously, but Lover really like associated the color of gold and blues to Joe Alwyn, and parang a lot of the fan talk or like the analysis on this song talks about how Gold Rush could be about Joe and Taylor's fear of losing Joe. Na parang the song is about basically a lot of people wanting this guy and comparing yourself to other people, and yun parang that just fits into that theme. Na she mentioned earlier in Lover na she doesn't want to lose Joe, diba? I don't remember what song that was anymore, but ang daming instances
Lover,
na
I think it. I'm highly suspicious that everybody who sees you wants you.
yun,
I really thought
Lover
of
nga
that.
siya.
Exactly.
And parang, there's still that fear na iiwan pa rin siya after having this really good relationship. And yun, I don't have, again, these are not really my favorite. These are not my favorite like number of tracks. Ikaw, what's your take on
Yeah.
Gold Rush?
I mean, on my take on Gold Rush is that I could see it because it's Jack Antonoff, but these are the tracks I think that I really enjoy the production. I think it could even belong on 1989. Like at least sonically, it does have that sound of like basta parang the way the synth and the beat, it drives the song forward also. It's like I the reason I think this is because when I was walking, I parang nakakabilis siya ng lakad, hearing and I don't wanna go like the na 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 na, like it's the
Yeah.
up and down. It's very stable, but it's there. It's pacing you, and it's really nice to hear. I enjoy listening to a jealous Taylor Swift, like a
Yeah.
jealous, insecure at times Taylor Swift, because it's so real. I mean, it's the most relatable thing. I don't think there's anyone in this world who is so secure and so empowered that these thoughts would never cross their mind. I think, and she recognizes again, this alludes to a lover who is so popular, who is so well loved. Everybody wants you, but I don't want a gold rush. Like, she doesn't want everyone rushing in.
Yeah.
And because diba, a gold rush, the idea of the gold rush in history, in Americana thematically, is a lot of people rush in, but many people got fool's gold, which is naloko, or
Yeah.
you leave your old job and try to rush for this gold rush, and not everyone is rewarded, I think. And I think there's that underlying fear of going for something and not getting anything out of it in the end. But that's a risk
Because
you gotta take.
as the old song says, only fools rush in. Ang gandang-
Exactly.
Ang ganda nun. Pagtali nun.
Oo. Basta yun nga, like, I mean, Lover, I think I think she's very clear with her feelings for Joe, and it's so tender. Like it's so intimate and it's so tender. And to see that, because I the other day I was watching YouTube videos of Taylor Swift's, like a compilation of clips of Taylor Swift looking at Joe Alwyn while she's performing on stage. And grabe, nakaka-fragile.
Sana all.
It's very, very sincere and tender. Exactly. And it's very honest and candid to say, you get flustered, your cheeks turn red, you feel that jealousy welling up in you. It doesn't mean that she's gonna act on it, right? That's a different thing. But to feel these again goes back to the very human side of things, of desire, of wanting also to equal out the feelings. And that's why I'm saying, Evermore, the theme really is that balancing of one's desire for another. Like, are we matched in terms of our feelings for each other? Or do you care more about me? Or do I care more about you? And it's that consciousness of the tension that drives all these feelings of jealousy, of insecurity, of even frustration that we'll see even deeper in latter songs.
Yeah, and yun na nga, parang I just hope this is endgame for them because, we've also
That
been
would be my royal wedding.
for sure. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, Taylor finally found the one that she's been
Yeah.
dreaming for the longest time. And I mean, as we mentioned earlier, he might just be the right match for her. Yun na nga, pero there was some sort of short Twitter controversy on this na Taylor Swift had an interview with Jimmy Kimmel, and she seemed to have made the sign for domestic abuse, the hand sign for domestic abuse, and everyone's like, "Oh no, I hope it's not true," right?
I didn't see that. Oh my
Kasi parang she was just
God.
making hand gestures, and at one point she did this, which is like the sign.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So everyone was like
Exactly.
going crazy, and I hope this is not true because we would have been invested in something that is hurting her even
Yeah.
more. Pero parang hindi naman based on the songwriting. So we never know, right? I hope it's not the
Oo,
case.
that's yeah. I mean, we really do wish all the best for Taylor in whatever with who she. I think the more and more we follow her career, we realize that she is a genuine person. And you cannot fault her for wearing her heart on her sleeve and talking about things that other people can relate to. So I think with given the idea of this not being the one or even something that can hurt her, obviously we hope that it's not the case.
Yeah. And bago tayo mag-move on, Champagne Problems actually co-written with Joe. We forgot to mention that. So William Bowery song, again, silang dalawa lang nagsulat nun, Champagne Problems. Now, any last thoughts on Gold Rush before we move to the next song? Okay.
No, I think I mean I love it. It's again another top song for me, I think.
Which
Gold Rush,
kind of shows
definitely.
our difference because
Yeah.
in track 4, ito na yung start ng pretty much my holy trinity of
Okay, yeah.
Evermore. And this is the damn season, which is for me like a top tier song on this album. Well,
Yes.
with the different characters in the album Evermore, this apparently alludes to Dorothea, which is
Yeah.
Hollywood star type, and kinda parang nag-move for nauna tong song na to, but it's more of someone going back to their hometown and like seeing one of their old flames, and like being there for a weekend, right? And during the holidays, no less, right? And ayun, it's more like coming back to your old life and thinking about what could have been. And
I relate to that so much every time I
ako,
go home. No, I mean, there's always that feeling of when you go back to a life you previously lived, a hometown. And parang yun lang, it just feels weird that you go back to all these memories. I Tis the Damn Season is one of like favorite definitely of this. And there's so much tension in that song. I love the line, "You can call me babe for the weekend." Because alam mo, you're just visiting
Yeah.
and you cannot establish anything for long term, even if these people were part of your growing up process. That these people might even know you better than the people you work with, where probably a big city, like the capital or whatever. And it's just nice. Like it's just juxtaposed with the idea of days, seeing family, seeing old friends, reunions, catching up. And with catching up comes with like reopening this box of old feelings that were left hanging, all the memories. What do you do then? Have these feelings because you've put it now in a corner, now it's dusty, you open it. Parang it raises the question of, is it still the same? If you hook up with an old lover in your hometown, is it the same? And what happens when, after the weekend, you have to go? Like, 'di ba? Parang ang ganda ng tension nga yun.
Because there becomes like two different versions of you, right? Na this is the old you where you used
Exactly.
to live, and the new you coming back, and like, are you like
Mm-hmm.
embracing the new you, the Laida Magtalas 2.0, or
Yeah.
'di ba? Actually ganun nga 'yan, 'di ba? And it takes a man and a woman nung bumalik siya, ng ibang tao na siya. Ah, parang ganun. Although iba naman yung naging ending nun, but you're right. It's really nice to have that. And in terms of having a relationship, na sometimes you just have to accept na ganun lang eh. It's not something for the long run, na
Yeah.
but you accept it, and sometimes you just head into it. But after that, you're back to your old life, to your friends in LA.
Yeah.
Uh
For me, a winner line of it, a really good line in the song is, um the road less taken looks real good now. And yun nga, it's always nostalgia is a tint for a lens for how you view the situation, because you're nostalgic. All of a sudden this small town is so appealing to you, you forget all the reasons why you left. Parang suddenly there's like regret, and dapat I should have stayed here na lang. I think that's interesting because we have from Red, if you recall, the lucky one, wherein it's a looking back at the end of a career and being happy to have escaped showbiz, but to still be that, which also goes back to Britney Spears' Lucky, which is, diba? Parang I'm looking at these three songs is because you have each takes a different point of view on fame and coming from your roots. So what happens when you become a big star? And what are the things that people don't see on the people who don't know you? I mean, we know Taylor Swift, but we don't know her childhood. She can tell
yeah.
us a lot about it, but only she knows what that lived experience was. And it's just interesting to see that, the future is pulling you, the future and present versus the past that is so nostalgic and so sweet, and you want to go back to it and it feels comfortable, but you have this other side. And maybe her friends in LA like are not the best, they're only just really professional contacts. She doesn't have that familiarity um of all those memories, but she has to do what she has to do, and that's be the superstar that she is. I mean, I'm sure, I mean, as much as she writes us this song, um in terms of a fictional character, I think there's a lot of truth to it in terms of her own experience. And when I think of this the damn season, I think very much of All Too Well. It really does remind me stylistically of All Too
Mayroon
Well.
pa siyang reference to a flannel shirt, to which it's very all too well reference. Yeah, very, very that. And but this reminds me of a tweet I just saw, na parang sometimes when we complain about our current lives, isn't the current life that we live
Yes,
something that we used to
I
wish
just
for,
saw that.
right? So
Yeah.
parang ganito din siya, na parang sometimes it's nice to be in the comforts of your old life, but come to think of it, hasn't your life been a bit better after you worked hard to get to where you are now? Ang favorite line
Mhm.
ko naman from here is, I won't ask you to wait if you don't ask me to stay. Parang, whoa there.
Oh,
That's like,
quits lang, oo.
parang, okay, let's just recognize that this is the situation. Sometimes you just have to, yun nga, I guess the theme of this whole album is just like accepting the situation, being mature about it, and that's a line showing that or explaining that in a sense. Ang ganda lang siya,
Mhm.
parang kung ayaw mo, di wag, parang ganun, di ba?
Yeah. And what I like also about this song is the plucking pattern. Dun-dun-ding-ding, dun-dun-ding-ding. Like kind of again, it just repeats all throughout the song and it's just mellow, but it's there. And it feels sort of like waves, eh, diba? Parang when you're on a boat and there's waves, dun-dun-dun, it just sort of rocks the song and builds that tension. And when she hits the chorus of, call it even, you gotta go. So this is again her reaching that higher register, that more breathy, airy. It kind of reminds me of Wildest Dreams, right? Say you'll remember, like that kind of
Yeah,
chorus versus the. I think that's been her pattern for this album. I mean, we've seen it before, but this album it does that versus our. No, no, like very stable in a certain register, more of narrative voice versus the moment you hit the chorus, she reaches this more like towards the throat and more nasal, like air
yeah.
sound that is higher. Kaya nga mas hirap nga ako kumanta sa chorus eh, kasi di ko kaya. But
Actually,
you know
mataas
right away
talaga
that's
siya.
that different.
And you could also, I mean, although her range is definitely there, you can see na she's still learning it in the Long Pond studio sessions. You see na yung kamay niya, ginaganon pa niya nun sa what song is that? Uh, Epiphany yata or another song. Wait, inisip ko na. Di ko anyway, just watch it and you'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, now we head on to the next song, which is Tolerated. Another ang syakit-syakit naman na kanta. Uh, as you were
Uh-uh.
saying earlier, one of the themes that you can evidently see here is na, yun nga, yung unequal relationship. And this is like probably an epitome of that song. How
Yeah,
a love is
exactly.
just, or a person is just literally tolerated. And, instead of celebrating someone, you just like keep them there instead of like making them nurture. And apparently it's inspired by a book called Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier.
The
I'm
one
not
on the one
I'm
on
not French.
the one on Netflix, right? Si Army Hammer and
Yun ba yun?
yun ata, yeah, because that's Rebecca, right? So, well, I don't know, like I have zero idea because I didn't watch the Netflix movie either. But
Actually, it
from
is
what I know, the
that
premise of the
now
tale,
that I check, I'm
okay, it
checking.
is.
Well, yeah, the
Yeah.
original was an Alfred Hitchcock movie, which they redid to become
Mhm.
this 2020 Army Hammer cannibal movie. Pero yun,
True. Yeah.
apparently it's about that na she just felt na the character of Rebecca is not someone highly regarded by the other person. And
Yeah.
parang I saw this na it's about the continuous struggle of wanting love from someone who's not at par, which is ang
Yeah.
ganda. Parang I one of my favorite lines I think is like writing hearts in the byline of what was that, of a book. I forget the exact lyric. Let me check now. Pero yun, ang ganda lang ng mga little notions that she puts to describe the toleration, quote unquote, like
Yeah.
making a painting that's not with
With the
making
best colors.
yeah, with her best colors, but andyan lang siya, parang
Yeah.
she's just
Yeah.
tolerated.
You're asking, it's a story of asking someone for the bare minimum. And while you're exerting, tinotodo mo na. And I think this one, it also reflects a lot of insecurity nga. That I think the line, always taking up too much space or time. Yun nga, like you don't wanna bother someone. Like, give me attention. It's a very tender feeling of just am I just imagining that this person does not give a shit about me, or I don't know. Like I think it's definitely I think the epitome of that imbalanced relationship. So having that, I think what for me this song, like in terms of the lyrics are a lot better than the sound itself. And because this is where she does, like, it's so breathy, the whole song, parang aircon tuloy. so I'm okay with this song. Like it kind of reminds me again of Wildest Dreams of the Sail, like that kind of breathing into the desperation of the feeling. But it's okay for me. Like I mean, it's really powerful. The lyrics, it's poetic. You have got all these sad situations in which you imagine a wife or a girlfriend or whatever is just, not given the attention she deserves. And it's a good song, but in terms of I think sound, I'm okay with it. Like that's
Na-
how I feel about it.
Nahanap ko na yung sinasabi kong lyric. Not writing hearts in the byline. It's part of it, drawing hearts in the byline. But the one I really liked is now I'm begging for footnotes in the story of your life. Like, wow.
Ayun, yeah.
Diba? Parang
Yeah.
medyo
You're
relate.
not the main character.
Parang, okay, parang you keep on talking, but like, sometimes, like, feeling mo nandun ka lang na pagkailangan ka lang, ganun, diba?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I guess I really resonated with this song for a time. So that's why it hit me more than other songs. Yun,
I
it's,
think even with toxic friendships, yeah,
yes, definitely.
like that
And it is track
frustration
5.
that is.
So it deserves the spot of track 5 with the long running history or pattern of Taylor Swift's track 5.
Painful track 5.
Yes. So now we head to track number 6, which is Nobody, No Crime, featuring Haim. And this is murder mystery realness. Gone Girl turned into a song featuring the Haim
Mm-mm.
sisters, who are some of Taylor's closest friends in the industry. Taylor said na this was inspired by her love for true crime and podcasts that are true crime. So for me, as a true crime podcast lover and someone who loves Gone Girl as a story, it's a really fun, campy song that I really enjoyed. Na parang all the elements with the police car, mga wang-wang, tapos he did it,
Yeah.
diba? And I really like Haim's music also. So for them to be on here, it just feels like a callback to liking Haim, seeing Taylor be friends with Haim, and just having fun with a song that's completely fictional, but still also really, sometimes when you see your friend being cheated on by another person, you can't help but think, di naman murderous thoughts, but like, ano ba yung guy na
You want
yan?
to take revenge.
Yeah, on behalf of your friend. And I mean, Taylor, I'm not sure why she wanted to kill ST out of all the 3 sisters. But that was, ang fun lang ng buong song na to. And medyo country-ish din siya, which is a good callback.
Yeah. No, it really is like solid country. And it reminds me of Carrie Underwood's Before He Cheats,
I have not
I
heard that.
think. Like, let me try to remember it. Before He Cheats. Like, I think it's yeah, I mean, generally it's that, someone cheats and like you want to take revenge. And like for in Carrie Underwood song, it's just she just keys the car of the guy, and just basically wrecks his car. But ito parang, this is like obviously the murder. I think what I guess
Parang
I was
bust your windows, but you murder
yeah,
someone.
parang ganun. What I was lacking in terms of sound, I mean, what I liked is she and different because it's a country song. Even her accent and enunciation of words is different. Like the way she almost raps like we meet, Esty is a friend of mine. We meet up every Tuesday for dinner and a glass of wine. May twang eh, diba? Which is nice if
Yeah.
you enjoy having fun with the song, and the lyrics flow very like really smoothly.
I think he did it,
What
but I just can't prove it.
Yeah,
Prove
yeah.
it.
What I'm trying to like want is that, because the twist of the song is that every verse may dagdag
There's
na element, di
there's a
ba?
new
Parang
murder. How to get away with
new
murder.
twist. There's a new twist. Exactly. But the song doesn't build up the way I wanted it to. Like, I mean, in terms of sound, like it sounds, parang, more of the sisters more sort of sing more together. They're heard more towards the end of the song than the earlier. But wala siyang grand chorus moment, or like wala siyang grand outro or whatever. It just sounds the same a bit, even when the narrative is moving. So I think that was one thing. I felt like this song I liked the song, but it wasn't my top because in terms of sound, it wasn't really going anywhere.
The bridge
Like,
is particularly
and-
something I like though. Yung good
yeah,
thing my
yeah,
dad got me a boat license
yeah.
when I was
So
15.
yun yung twist. That's the revelation.
Yeah,
That's the reveal.
ganda.
That's the reveal moment. Yeah.
Pero I guess
Yeah.
these last 6 songs are kind of like proving how different we see these songs, which
Mhm.
makes it great. Na when you write songs so universal and people can just add their own stories to it. Similar with folklore, na there are just some songs
Mm.
other people will resonate with more than the others. Although of course, I do not want to murder anyone. Although I do enjoy true crime also. But I agree. I wanted more Haim out of it, actually. I thought there was going to be more Haim sister
Exactly.
singing. But,
Yeah.
I guess that's what a feature is now. At least they were in the story. Next, we have Happiness, which is also one of my top faves here. Ang ganda.
The irony of the title.
Definitely. I thought when I saw this track, I was like, Happiness. Oh, this must be a happy song because Folklore was such a sad song, right? I mean, a sad album, right? Pero this was even more sad. Although, ang ganda ng irony of it all. This is actually mentioned as the last song added to the album before release. Parang 1 week lang ata niya ginawa to before releasing Evermore. I just like as we go on about the talk about maturity and the theme of being mature about things versus before na you'd write songs about having bad blood, Dear John, na parang salty, all those salty songs that Taylor has written. This is more like
Yeah.
I'm part of
Very
it.
bitter.
I'm part of this experience, and there's no
I
revenge
think the
element
line, yeah, that captures that is, when she says, "No one teaches you what to do when a good man hurts you, and you know
when
you
you
hurt
hurt
him
him
too."
too.
Exactly. So this again is the autonomy, no longer, because I mean partly media shaped that narrative na pa-victim si Taylor Swift. And I think that's unfair, but at the same time if you listen to her songs, it's always the hurt was directed towards her. And
Yeah,
ito yun nga, like, this track for me is very calm, very mellow again. Parang if you weren't paying attention to the lyrics, it would be like easy listening. In fact, like you have that sort of organ, like very church like very synth organ feeling in the background that's very muted if you listen to it. And I think it's just, I don't know, it just feels like a quiet moment of yourself and your realization.
to me it sounded at first listen like a spiritual sequel to Peace. Parang ganda, peace, happiness. And then yung vibe nga niya na parang hindi naman siya, there's no up, super down. But like, it's about
Yeah, exactly.
really like looking into yourself and your experience and seeing what it is that happened. It's just so mature na parang um, the part where she says, I hope you'll be a beautiful fool who takes my spot next to you? And then parang, no, I don't mean that. You haven't seen the new me yet. That's like very, adult na parang
Yeah.
you recognize how you've helped this person grow, how you've grown from this person, how there was happiness in your relationship and there was happiness after that relationship. That whole narrative of like, parang hindi naman umikat yung mundo, but like you've gone full circle with your experience and now you move forward with your life and be happy for that person.
Mm-hmm.
Like personally, I can't relate because I haven't been in a relationship, but I feel like especially for Taylor Swift na, there sometimes you'd think, oh, it's so vindictive to do this. With the whole with the whole drama now of driver's license and Sabrina Carpenter's
Oh,
scene,
yeah.
right? Ganun,
Yes.
nando pa sila sa batang phase na, okay, I'll just write uh,
Uh,
an answer to your song, which is the number one song in the world, and let's go at it, right?
I enjoy. We need to talk about that tea like at the end of this album a
No, we're
bit.
gonna have a whole episode probably about Disney
Okay.
teen drama, di ba? Parang,
Mm-mm.
as going back to that, ang ganda lang nung bridge din, yung I can't make it go away by making you the villain. Because, I mean, in real life, of course, you're the hero in your narrative, but sometimes you have to look back and see that you also did something wrong. And it takes maturity to have that self-awareness.
Yeah.
And yun.
It's reflection music. That's what I'll call it. You have that organ sound playing in the background. It's a very slow, like almost spoken piece. Honey, when I'm above. Like it's so parang, to be honest, it's almost bordering on lullaby kind of sound, diba? And I think it's a good dialogue between one's inner thoughts, I think, and realizing these lessons at the end of it all.
I'm sure maraming nakarelate yung mga kakabreak lang or yung mga matagal nang may beef with their jowa, ex-jowa na parang, it's just what it is. I became a stronger person after that. And it doesn't just apply to relationships. It can also apply to friendships na, friendships, not all friendships last forever. But, those friendships also help you grow into the person you are now. And sometimes you're just thankful that it existed, that you had that friendship. Don't they have, parang, di ba may kasabihan na parang you grow out of friendships because you become a new person, something like that.
Yeah.
And I guess that's an analysis you can put into this song as well, aside from having a romantic relationship. Because sometimes it just happens. Wala namang masamang nangyari, but you
Mhm.
just like lose touch and you just accept it. And, they're still there, but not in the capacity that you want, you used to have with them. And for all it's worth, there was happiness, as she would say.
Yeah. Like it doesn't change. Like the happiness that was there, it's a memory. I'll carry it with me. End of story.
Yes. And that's the end of happiness. Now we head to Dorothea, which is, again, as we mentioned earlier, about a storyline of someone chasing their dreams in La La Land. And, ang maganda nga, as we mentioned earlier, is that Taylor really puts her shoes into so many different characters that's not her, while also putting her experiences. And
Mhm.
Dorothea is a part of it, leading into the narrative we were talking about earlier in Tis the Damn Season, na parang it's
I
on the
have a
flip side
question.
naman, right?
Yeah. Do you think it's the guy or it's just a friend? Because I've seen two sort of analyses on that. Some have said that it's the guy, the ex high school Joa versus the other is it's a friendship na, oh, when you come back, it's nice to see you, ganon. And like someone, just a third party, like a less significant. Because for me, I'm actually more towards the friend. Eh. I don't find any evidence in the song that the narrator was romantically involved. Parang it's very supportive. It's more like, oh, you're on TV now. I see you. Parang and it sounds at least the song in terms it sounds very happy. Parang walang
Walang,
tension that you
oo.
had earlier in the damn season. So that's why I'm sort of leaning towards more of it as a friend rather than as the high school ex. What do you think?
Well, it actually sounds more correct nga na it's a friend besides someone back home. And
It's someone back home for
in
sure.
this universe Taylor Swift has created, she says that she likes to think that these people all went to the same high school together with James, Rebecca, Betty,
Yes.
but they're like different in a different class. And parang yun nga, Dorothea is another one of those characters in this world. And yeah, hey Nathania Chua, do you ever think about me? Buti naalala pa ako ni Nat, diba? Ni Miss pag ano ka na
Yeah.
eh, pag sikat ka na talaga, mga pero parang alam mo yun, you see these people looking back at their old lives. It's nice to have a friend call back. It's nice to have a
Yeah.
friend. It's nice for people on that side na parang to remember their roots, and that's this kind of like part of it na people become more successful in another place, and when they go back home you always wish na they remember you and not just like lumaki yung ulo nila ganun.
Yeah. I think what's nice is the question does ask that question. Are you still the same soul I met under the bleachers? Because parang I think the reason why I'm convinced it's a friend is because it seems like they've never talked again. Like they've never crossed paths again. Versus if it were the ex, which she regularly sees when she comes home, then there would be more of the tension of waiting for you to come back and so on. This one is more like, oh look, you've gone off and achieved great things, and that's I wish all the best for you. It's just it's really nice. Like I wonder if you think of me, but if not, that's fine because you lost touch. This was high school, and it's an outsider perspective of fame, of someone who sees someone on the TV and says, wow, you have a good life. And I think that's very true for a lot of us, that we assume things about other people's lives as well because we don't know. That's all the information we have.
Yeah, and it's just like such a light song also na
It
you
is.
just wanna like bop to it and like not
Yeah. Yeah.
really
You
think
know what
about
it
it until
reminds me of in terms of sound? Train's Drops of Jupiter. There she's back in the atmosphere with drops of Jupiter in her.
I don't know
Like the
that
intro,
song. I'm
"Hey,
sorry.
Dorothea." But well, Train, Drops of Jupiter, it sounds very similar, at least for the first, like the intro, first half of the song. But
Sige,
it's
pag
got
ano ko
na
siya
na
after
na na na.
Drops of
Yeah,
Music.
like
Oh wait, Taylor sang
it
that
sounds
in her concert
exactly,
before,
exactly. She
right?
sang it live. Yep. Yes, yes,
But we don't listen to those old
yes.
Big Machine tracks. Don't support that. Just kidding. I mean, may
True.
royalties pa naman siya. I mean, I guess for people wondering if she can still make money out of the old tracks, of course she does. As a songwriter on that track, may royalties ka pa rin. But
But it's
owning
so
the
little,
song,
like here.
yeah, owning the song yourself is much better, and like you get control of what you own. And also, ano ba? Yeah, just key for people who haven't noticed, but in Taylor Swift's official, the complete Taylor Swift collection on Spotify, wala na yung mga old albums na. It's just Folklore, Lover to Evermore. So she's like, let's forget about those and just wait for me to
Yeah.
drop the stuff that I own. Wala lang, fun fact. And any last thoughts on that?
No.
Okay, now we head to Coney Island featuring the National. So now,
Oh, I
after
love this.
having a whole Aaron Dessner, 2 albums of Aaron Dessner production and writing, they bring together the National band. And this is Coney Island. And another, you're taken into that whole experience just listening to that song. You can imagine Coney Island, such a bright place with all the arcades and carnival kind of vibe. More parang
Yeah, you
stars.
get that carnival vibe even in Willow, right? Like I thought I mean I noticed that maybe that was a reference. In Diba she was on in a fair and I don't know, I just thought of that. Coney Island with Willow with the reference of the fair.
Meron nga sa Willow na parang in the music video din na parang there was like a plaza with all the things happening. Pero yun, Coney Island, um, yeah, it hurts also na it's again revitalizing that theme where these two people just aren't on the same page. I'm sorry I didn't get you that ring. Tama ba ring?
Yeah, that arcade ring.
Arcade
Sorry
ring.
for not winning you that arcade. Like it's those simple disappointments that build up over time. What
Sorry
I
you're not
enjoy
the centerfold. Sorry for
exactly,
not making
yeah.
you my centerfold. But my
Yeah.
favorite line of this song is because we were like the mall before the internet. It was the one place to be.
Yeah.
Again, parang how do you write this? It's like crazy.
I mean that I felt that because I mean at least for me in grade school, like grade 5, grade 7, we did that mall thing. You hang out at the mall after with friends, and it was just your entertainment. And I think she sets up the scene so well of that. I love the line after the gift wrapped suburban dreams. Na ang simple-simple lang ng I guess your simple pleasures, but at the same time there's still that disappointment. Okay, I didn't win you that arcade ring. What like I think for me honestly, it reminds again because it's the twin album. You have the comparison to Exile, which
Yeah.
also has this low register, very very dark colored song. But I like this. I loved Coney Island more. Like I think if in terms of duets, because remember she also had in the Red album, the last time, diba?
Yeah.
Gary Like Body. I think yeah, yeah. And that was super good as well. Like I enjoy when Taylor Swift does a duet with a male voice, but this was just it was so jarring. Like it was Matt Berninger, right? Like yung
Yes.
basta sa the national, yeah. And oh my God, I'm just in love with the sagutan ulit. Like I mean, in Exile, the sagutan was more direct. It was echo. It was back and forth. This one not so much. It's more separated verse by verse, and there are parts that they sing together. But for me, I feel it more here. Like I find Coney Island top, definitely one of the top for me.
Yun nga, ang ganda ng sagutan and ang ganda ng, the narratives you can make in a duet na it just makes your world even wider where people can answer you and answer back and share their thoughts of, what went wrong between you two.
Oh, and I remember, but there's the part in the bridge that I think it's Matt who goes, "Did I leave you hanging? Did I leave you hanging every single day? We're standing in the hallway with a big cake. Happy birthday!"
Yeah.
Like that's Jake Gyllenhaal, no?
Yes.
Remember because
Because she didn't
apparently
go
many years
to
ago,
her
right?
birthday.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was thinking that because I think she sang it in the moment I knew.
Yeah.
So the moment I knew in red, she draws back on that really painful moment. But I like here it's again that forgotten birthday or wanting to wish someone and they're not there. And I don't know, I'm wondering if they wrote it with Jake Gyllenhaal in mind. I don't know. That's just
Maybe. I mean, that's such a specific reference about having a
oh,
birthday like na hindi inattendan. And if it was a
oh,
big
and
moment, right?
And Coney Island is in the East Coast, and I know, right? Like they were always spotted noon
In New
in New
York.
York. So I don't know. So I really have a feeling that there's something to that.
She was like, okay, let's bring this out of the baul and put it in a song, another song.
So
And
again, her taking parts of her life to form a narrative that now it's no longer direct na, oh, si ganito, ganito ba yan? Oh, was this a reference to this person? Kasi noon, remember, in previous albums, everyone loves to play the guessing game of which ex
yeah,
or which memory or which moment this was. And in a way, we're still playing that game
but
now.
now it's just
But
like, what's the story behind this?
yeah,
What's the character?
exactly.
And what does this
Exactly.
character represent? Versus it being like a direct, okay, this is Back to December is Taylor Lautner, and Dear John is John Mayer, and All Too Well is Jake Gyllenhaal, all that, and Forever and Always is Joe. It's a hit
Yeah.
na natin, Joe. Pero yun nga, it's very
Yeah.
I mean, just to reference back to folklore, it's just so mature of her na she also mentions that part where she talks about buying Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner a baby gift, and
The baby's gift, yeah.
that shows maturity na they're way past that phase of their life, and she's happy. And now we head to Ivy, which is another
Ay,
song
wait,
about
one last comment. Nice
go ahead.
comment lang. No, I think what this song does well, that the other songs na nagkulangan ako, is my build up. Like when we get to the bridge here, parang it sounds more dramatic in terms of
Yeah,
sound. Like there's just in terms of vocals, it's different. Like mas they're speaking into, parang it's almost as if may galit, were you waiting at our old spot, and like parang ganon the way it's being said. And I don't know, like that's what I mean, fine, maybe some songs can remain at one level and it works, but I particularly enjoy when there's a grand moment in Taylor Swift songs, like there's a reveal with a triumphant moment or a very heartbreaking moment. So yun, I guess this is why this song really worked for me,
as
Coney
compared
Island. I
to
I
what you
love
were
it.
saying kanina sa Nobody No Crime, right?
Yeah, diba? Like it doesn't have that parang biglang lahat, like the volume changes, the arrangement, is there a change in key or something like that, or anything to reference a shift in the song, versus
Yeah.
dito, like you hear it more, and that's why I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so now we head to Ivy, which is apparently another song about an illicit affair. I mean, going back to the whole illicit affairs. Now we have
Mm-mm.
Ivy. This is a song I enjoy listening to, although walang level of nakaka-relate. Ikaw, what's your take on this?
I mean, it's an easy listening song. Like honestly, the song was a bit forgettable for me. It's nice but forgettable.
Yeah,
Like I don't think there were any particular. I really just like the line, "My pain fits in the palm of your freezing hand." Like my pain, my trauma fits in with something you can accept and you can hold on to, and I would let you hold on to it. I think that was very nice. But the rest of the song, I don't know. It's it's okay. Like
it's not
oh
particularly exciting,
yeah,
but I like listening and going back to it when I
exactly.
feel
Yeah,
like it.
it's okay. Like ayun, wala na tayong masabi about it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
not
nice song.
definitely like a notch a bit higher than Willow for me. But
Yeah,
I'd listen to
yeah.
this more.
More than Willow Sing.
I mean, very very direct na it's Ivy, so more of like poison Ivy because it's not a relationship you're supposed to be in, and you're there's pain because it's not for you. But aside from that, wala namang super like moment na mapapahugot ka talaga. Although, syempre, I guess other people experiencing such things would probably be resonating with it. Although, for both of us, probably not.
Yeah. I think now that you mentioned Willow, I think what's nice in terms of imagery is Ivy is something that whatever the shape is, it covers it, diba? Parang it covers it. And it takes the shape of whatever that item was. Versus ang willow naman, it's a tree and it does get swayed by the wind, but it's more sort of, I guess, stable, more parang it has its own you can bend with the trees and it sways, but it has its own will. Versus ivy, like it just grows and grows and grows so quickly and it spreads. And I think that's how like that's why she says, I'm covered in you, I'm covered in you. Parang yun nga, that it's just this love crept on her and consumed her. Versus willow, the guy is someone who stood firm and had swayed with the wind. Pero yun nga, like yung, I
Like
don't
the
know, like,
willow, and I stuck right through your wind, right? Is that what she said?
yeah, it bent right through your wind. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, parang mas firm si Willow as a person. And then si Ivy naman, like, it also consumed her.
Yeah.
It grew all over her. I think that's an interesting nature reference that you see both in the start of the track and now that we're in the middle to second half of it. Yeah.
So that's about it because it's not a song we feel
Yeah,
particularly
exactly. That's
strong
it.
about.
Yeah.
The next song, Cowboy Like Me, medyo ganon din ako. I like listening to it when I feel like it, although it's not something I would want to like go back to na I would feel so much of it. But this definitely feels like the most country out of it, the most call back to earlier Swiftian days, like the first and second album, right?
You hear the banjo right away, so that's what gives it its country sound. And what I mean, Cowboy Like Me, I actually like Cowboy Like Me than Nobody No Crime. I mean, if we're comparing the two country songs, I like Cowboy Like Me for its mellowness. It's very it really reminds me of Casey Musgraves, because Casey Musgraves country
Yeah. Oo
style
nga, no?
is very shining, shimmering, splendid. It's something you would sit out in the sun. It's a very warm country song. And like again, there's that story of two scammers basically, diba? So
Yeah.
parang end up falling for each other. And voila, I mean, in this song, her breathiness, her airiness of her singing, it works for the country pace of it. And you're a cowboy like me. It's so mellow. It's so sarap pang drive. Like
Will
it's a
we
long
see
drive.
her next original album as going back full country? Maybe, right?
Why not?
I mean,
Why
she's
not?
kind of like building back to that, her roots. And that would be a good, like, side by side with if she re releases the first Taylor Swift album, the self titled one, and then releases a full country album. More like Joanne by Lady Gaga vibes, na parang may pagka-pop, country pop pa rin. That would be a nice, like, return to form.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing for me, nothing particular again about Cowboy Like Me.
I think this is one song that I like the sound a lot more than the narrative. Like,
It's
cause
very
for most the
soothing.
strength was, wow, that's a cool story. This one is it's a it's a shimmering song, very warm, very like it feels like summer for some reason for
Yung
me at least.
ta-na-na-na-na-na. Ang ganda ng part na yun.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's the exposition. So you have that strum pattern that just exposes that flow of the narrative. I liked it. I really liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's just very soothing and relaxing to listen to as background music or when you feel like you're singing to it, but not particularly like hindi naman siya hugot, but may yun lang magaan lang pakinggan and it's very calming also. Next we have 6 more tracks to go, but we're closing a bit. Parang we're about to close the standard edition, which is the next song, which is Long Story Short. It's just a short quirky, fun song. More of like how do you say this? Just reflecting on her journey about having enemies, like getting past that, and long story short, just ending up with Joe Alwyn
The
pretty much,
bad time,
and
yeah.
like just letting
Yeah.
go. Again, being ang ganda ng pagka-adult talaga na you know, it's just not about writing these petty look what you made me do and bad blood songs. It's just like long story short, let's get it over with. I've now
Yeah.
found the people that I trust, the person that I love. Long story short, I had a good time, 'di ba? Ang
Yeah. I mean, I like the she recognizes clung to the nearest lips. Parang yun nga, rebound, like whoever was there at the time. And that was a
Tom
choice.
Hiddleston.
That was a choice, girl. So, I
I mean,
mean,
I
this song
actually
has
approved
the
of
face,
the TS love tears thing.
the Hiddle Swift.
I love, ano yun? I love TS na Sando. Na beat.
Yeah. I mean, this I'm not sure if it was this a Jack Antonoff piece because it sounds like, at least in terms of the, I don't know, maybe I'm not sure which who
Antonov
produced.
songs on this track are, on this album are Willow, or not Willow, are Gold Rush and Ivy. So the rest are Aaron Dessner
Okay,
and William
okay.
Bowery
I
ones.
mean, the reason why I say that is because this sounds 1989 again for me. Like it sounds a bit dated in terms of the percussion and the.
Medyo, you can remove this and it'll make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean it's okay. Like I don't know, I don't feel it so much on the album.
Yes, this is
Um
kind of like something I skip sometimes now when I just don't feel like this upbeat poppy. I mean, this kind of takes
yeah.
out of the experience of folklore slash Evermore. Yung
Yeah, I
lalim.
would yeah, totoo. Like I would cut this one out. I think it's I don't know, like I think it's good to have these upbeat pieces, but it just felt off. Like it just
Yeah.
really sounded different. That's why I
Uh,
thought it was like Jack Antonoff because it sounded more, it really could be on 1989.
and same goes with, let's just skip the next song first and go to Closure, which kind of,
Yeah.
it's like on the same note, right? Na although it's about, medyo, ito yung medyo mababaw-ish, hindi naman sa super babaw, but like a bit more like light-hearted Taylor Swift in this era. Na sometimes it's this, what I like about Closure, obviously, which is about closure or not having it or not wanting it.
Or not caring about it.
Exactly. It's just like, it's a nice empowering song, I feel, for a lot of people who are like, you know what, I don't need disclosure. I got your message. Dahil, di ba, ang daming nagpaparamdam minsan-minsan ng mga, they just come out of nowhere and like be, hey, just as if nothing happened. And you're gonna be like, you know what, I don't need this in my life. Let's just get over it. Bye. Thank you. Next.
I like that she says, I'm fine with my spite. Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, I guess you can have that bitterness as long as it doesn't interfere with your life and it's there. Like, let's just keep it as is. No need to mend anything, diba? Parang sometimes it's not worth going over things, demanding closure, wanting an explanation for things. I think what's interesting is this song, like the drum pattern, like, but it has a different, yeah. So that's in terms of the melody, like that's the piano, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
But like even the drum beats, like you
Ano yung
have the
drums
hi
doon?
hat. I don't know, it's different. It's just different.
Yung
Like
dun.
I mean, uh
I'm
Basta
pretending to be
it
as
just has,
musically like inclined as that, but I'm just here as a
yeah.
tagahugot lang.
And one thing also, so you'll notice that the timing of the song is different. So it's a very weird time signature. It's 5/4, I think. And basta di ba notice it's not that it's been a lot. It doesn't fit your usual 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Like it's it gives you parang nafe-feel mo tuloy off yung count mo. Like it's not your usual 1, 2, 3, 4 that is easy because it fits 5 into 4. So
Yeah, it's
I
tatak
think
tak
this is a
tatak
very
tak
unique
tatak
song.
tak tatak.
Yeah, 'di ba? 'Di ba? 'Di ba? So it is different. It's like I don't know if she's done 5/4s in other albums, but yun nga, it feels very weird. But I mean I like that what ties it still into this album is the light piano behind it, but it has that drum pattern that I don't know, it's just very weird. It's very weird to hear. That's all that I'll say about the song. It just sounds different.
And you notice how as the album like fades out, medyo nga after the heaviness of a lot of songs, it closes out a bit lighter and more hopeful and more like mas magaan. Mas magaan yung feeling for sure. And Closure and
Yeah.
Long Story Short are kind of like
Yeah.
different sides of the same coin. But also, you know, may ganong level na it's also different aspects of how you approach your current situation. And
Yeah.
the track we skipped was Marjorie, which is also one of my favorites. Not necessarily my top, but it's just a very sweet song of dedicated to Taylor's grandmother, who was named Marjorie Finlay. Finley ba ang pronunciation nun? Probably Finley.
Whatever the Americans say it.
However Americans say it. It's nice because in the last album, Epiphany was half dedicated, or like half
Yeah.
of it was dedicated to the grandfather, and this one is
Yeah.
about the grandmother um, who was actually an opera singer in her early age. I mean, in her early, parang in her youth, and it's just nice how Taylor imparts words that she learned, or like yung mga naaalala niya because of her grandmother. Like I really like the
Yeah.
lines. Never be so kind, you forget to be clever.
Yeah, it's nice. It's
Never be
cute.
so clever, you forget to be kind.
Although, that's why for me, medyo na lola ako sa song na to. Kaya I'm not crazy over it. Like, I listen to it, and it's about legacy. It's about
Yeah.
building on what your grandparents have given you, the talent, the path to fame in a way also. But I don't know. This was one of the skip tracks for me. The same way,
Talaga.
ang sama ko, pati yung Epiphany was a skip track for me in folklore.
Sometimes there are just sometimes that I just want to listen to these songs. You know, sometimes you just wake up na you have hooks in your mind, which is kind of random,
Yeah.
right? Or epiphany. But yeah, it's not particularly everyone's cup of tea. But I also
Yeah.
really like
Yeah.
the line "What died didn't stay dead." That yun yung tumatak sa akin the first. This is one of the songs that really made its mark on me the first listen. What died didn't stay dead.
Yeah.
Although you could apply it to so many different things. Na you know, a lot of the things that you went through, or the people who have gone through your life, don't really stay dead, even though they're not around anymore physically, or like I guess within
You're with
your
you. Yeah.
your proximity. Um, everything that they've thought they taught you is like within you, 'di ba? It's just a
Mhm.
nice thing nga about imparting lessons. I guess it's just a nice tribute at the end of it.
Yeah. It's memories ulit. So this one, these are clear memories that she has. And it's wala lang, it's nice, it's sentimental. Yun lang.
And now we head to the last song of the standard edition of Evermore, which is the title track, Evermore, featuring Bon Iver, who returns. Um, for me, yeah, ang maganda yung story ng song na to, na after all the hurt you've gone through, there's hope na this pain wouldn't last forever, you know. And that's just a hopeful note to end the album with. Although in the beginning, it really, parang I guess the Bon Iver style that he's really known for, or they're really known for, appears here. Na it sounds completely like a different song by the time Bon Iver comes in, and then it goes back to Taylor's
That
part
is true.
at the end of it, right?
It does feel in a way the cut and paste of this section and this section, but it works, yeah. And I think the reason why it works, even if it's a very different part, is because you have all throughout the song is da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, like the melody is very repetitive. Parang it's very patterned. And that was catchy. Like you know the downbeat very clearly in the song. And I think that's what makes it still work, even when you have a completely different part. The moment, Justin Vernon gets on the song.
Pero ang ganda rin ng, again, sagutan nila in the bridge. Although it just really feels like a different song altogether. Pero I guess
Yeah.
Bon Iver fans would know better. I'm not really a listener of Bon Iver. But I guess I would really prefer Exile, which is like one of the
Exile
top
over this.
songs
Yeah, actually for me,
ever.
If we're comparing the three duets, I think I would put for me Coney Island, Exile, then Evermore. Like Evermore was okay.
Ako, Exile is just really like, wow. That's like one of my top
Iba.
songs ever. Iba yung
Yeah.
hit niya eh.
Yeah.
And personally went through something exile-ish, which I guess makes me like it more. Pero
Yeah.
Evermore, I was
Draw it,
expecting
yeah.
na, oh wait, Bon Iver's back. Maybe it's another Exile sequel, but it wasn't. And we don't really hate it for that, but Exile was just like, you can't help but compare the two. So yun, any last words on Evermore before we head to the bonus tracks?
Excellent album. I
Yeah,
think I would cut. Like I would have preferred. I don't know. I don't know why I'm saying I want less songs, but I don't
wait,
know. I just
mamaya na
wanted
tayo
it.
dun sa full album. Dun na tayo
Overall,
sa
okay, okay.
bonus track.
Just the track so
So
far.
these were just released
Yeah.
online maybe 2 weeks ago or
Yes.
around that time. And there were two songs, Right Where You Left Me and It's Time to Go. Right Where You Left Me, personally, I don't have feelings for it, although it's a nice song and it's a nice story. I kind of get why it's a bonus track.
Yes, same, same. Actually, the two for me, honestly, like I listened to them, I've forgotten. I think the second one more.
Yeah, It's Time to Go is definitely a favorite that I wish were in the album as a full track or a part of the regular cut. Kasi, well, for one, it's the whole part of the whole highly publicized Big Machine Records and Scooter Braun feud, right? It's about, you just have to know when it's time to go. Na, you fought your fight, but sometimes you just have to let it go. Um, the lines really struck me. Sometimes giving up is the right thing. Ano yun? Sometimes um, running is, wait lang. Nawala yung train of thought ko. I will search up the lyrics again. Um, Yun. Sometimes giving up is the strong thing. Sometimes the run is the brave thing. Sometimes walking out is the one thing that will find you the right thing. And as we were mentioning earlier, yun na nga eh, sometimes you just have to know when literally it's time to go. Like, it doesn't make you any weaker to get out of a situation you don't necessarily feel is helping you. Because sometimes you're even braver for wanting to get out of a situation than staying there
Yeah.
and being even more like depressed about it. And that's
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, diba, it's all about respect. And I think that's what's so wonderful about Taylor Swift is her idea of boundaries. And this is what is acceptable for me, and this is what is not. And if you cannot, figure that out, then bahala ka sa buhay mo.
yeah, yun na nga eh. Kasi sometimes people think things are forever, relationships, friendships are forever. But if it at the end of the day, if it doesn't really like contribute to your well-being, then might as well just leave it and accept that. And as we've been talking about this past hour, accept that it's part of your journey and move forward with the next part of your journey. And that's a really nice way to end it. I mean, Taylor always ends her albums on a hopeful and bright note, lighter note than the rest of it. The way we saw Clean, New Year's Day, and Daylight. Then we had The Lakes. Would you consider The Lakes a light song, or Hoax?
Mm,
Not so much as the rest that were.
That's all. Yeah.
Pero yun, Evermore and It's Time to Go were kind of like good closers. So yun, it's pretty much the end of our track by track analysis of Evermore. Now we head to our final thoughts, as Nat will continue what she was saying earlier.
I mean, overall, yeah, like I think again, we repeat that it is about the dynamics of a balance. How do you navigate those balances and tensions between two people who are together or who want to be together? How do you figure out somebody's feelings for you, and would you want to know the answer? Kasi nga, di ba, parang sometimes, okay, you find out someone likes you but not as much as you like them. Do you take that as is? And I think it's really interesting. So again, more narratives. We already said it, like in all our previous in your previous Swift podcast, right? We've said Taylor Swift is a master songwriter. Like you could take any of her songs and put it as a English literature example for English or literature classes for high school or university students. And because she understands scene, plot, characters, even the figurative language, I think it all works so well, and it's such a, parang for us to even go over it right now, it's fun. Like it's unlocking a nice poem, right? When you figure out what it means or what it could allude to, parang ang ganda. Like the Easter egg hunting is different na now, because before it was so direct. Sometimes I think I told you this during Lover, but I get so bored of it na yung pala may nakatago na number na ganun, parang ang baduy masyado. Nabaduy na ako at a certain point. I was like, I don't know, we're a little too old for the silly games.
Gone are the days where the lyric sheet would show like capital letters that will make
diba? Yung mga
sentence.
ganon, parang ain't got no time for that. Kahit na pandemic and we're all at home, I'm not gonna decode your lyrics, sis. Not that way. So I think this one, it's the way we unlock the songs now. It's like unlocking a world. It's as the cinematic universe of
the folklore
Evermore,
cinematic
folklore,
universe,
yeah.
or Sonic.
They're twin albums. Yeah. I think they're twin albums, not identical. And I would say that they're sisters, their direct sisters are 1989 and Red. I think that's how I feel about it.
They say that Evermore is the younger, more liberal, and more experimental sister to Folklore. And that kind of, I mean, as a whole, I would definitely say it's so hard to choose favorites between the two because they're amazing songs you can find in both.
Yeah.
This definitely feels a little less cohesive than Folklore, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but Folklore was just like too good that you can't help but.
Yeah.
And speaking of Folklore, happy 6 months pala. Kaka 6 months lang ng release.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine? It feels like a whole year and we had 2 Taylor Swift.
No, So because here I feel the season. So when Folklore came out here, it was the peak of summer and it was so hot. And I remember I was moving flat, so I was packing my stuff always every day for 1 week, and I was just listening to Folklore every day on loop, like the whole album while I was packing. And wala lang, like it's very interesting nga. And because I remember in Folklore, I think back then when we did the podcast, my top picks were Betty, August, and ano pa ba? Mirror Ball.
Mirror Ball.
Yeah, those were the three. Yeah, those were the three that I said were just classic. Were really classic in terms of sound and lyrics. But yun, I think that doesn't yun nga, it doesn't take away the fact that I also super enjoyed Evermore.
Yeah. I mean, bonus na lang talaga na, she works really hard and she could come out with 2 full albums in 6
The
months or less.
productivity levels are insane.
Everyone's like, if Taylor Swift can write 2 full albums in this quarantine, why can't this government like come up with
Yeah,
solutions?
exactly. I need to work on my dissertation. Like, that's why, parang sinasabi ni sis, magsulat ka na rin.
I mean, yun na nga. It's just different ways of coping with the quarantine. And if it gives us 30 new Taylor Swift songs, then we're here for it. What's your holy trinity in this album?
Ah, okay. For me, I think we're the same for Tis the Damn Season. I think it's just
Yes.
classic. It's so freaking good. And my other, okay, I think I have top four. Isipin muna natin yung four. I loved Champagne Problems. That was super duper good. Gold Rush. I really like Gold Rush because it had that 1989 synth vibe to it it was upbeat and it was dance-ish. Not fully dance, but dance-ish. And then, so Champagne Problems, Gold Rush, Tis the Damn Season, and Coney Island. That was so good. Coney Island for me was just the coolness of the voice, like the vocals on the National. Oh my God, it was so
Sobrang baba
suave.
ng
Like
boses niya.
it's a chill. Exactly. It was that chill of regret and looking back, and grabe yun. Ang lamig ng
I cannot
song.
reach that level of bass.
Exactly. Grabe yun. Ikaw, anong top three?
My holy trinity of this album, for one, as you mentioned, Tis the Damn Season. It's just like, wow, okay. Tolerate it. Yung, ano na yun, yung tatlong magkakasunod. And it's a toss-up between, I really enjoy Happiness, even though it's so sad. And Nobody, No Crime, and Coney Island. A toss-up between those three. But maybe
Mm-mm.
to settle it, I would probably go for either Happiness or Coney Island. Madami pa rin siya. It's so hard to choose. There's just some
So
really
foreign
there's just some really, really good songs on this record that you just can't choose
yeah.
top 3.
I mean, I'm really hoping she releases music videos, promotes it as singles. I hope it I don't know. I feel like it deserves more mainstream attention. Kasi noon, her whole like marketing strategy was very explicit and very like malakas siya mag-promote. We know that, like, and maybe because it was also previous business ties when things, I guess, were easier with her label and but now parang I don't know, like I really hope more people get to hear it. Kasi honestly, people wouldn't listen to this because they know it's just Taylor Swift. Like, people are like, oh, Taylor Swift, but they don't realize that this is something new and this is something that people would like.
Yeah, I mean, definitely coming from Folklore, there wouldn't be as much interest na generally as big
Yeah.
as the one that was given to Folklore. But I'm pretty sure Folklore got a lot of new Swifties because of how good it was. Pero yun nga, I mean, we were waiting for like, oh, please give us an Exile music video, but we got a full album, so I'm not really complaining. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with the fact na maybe another music video would be nice. Because we all know that the next move will probably be the re-recording na, which is what he said.
And sana, yeah, and sana narrative-driven yung music video. Parang yun yung problema ko with Cardigan and Willow. Parang nice scenery, nice effects, nice everything, but there's no storyline. I mean, okay, fine. Medyo baka redundant that the song is already storyline tapos yung music video storyline rin. But I miss the days of like You Belong With Me where talagang may characters, they play it out. I would love that visual imagery to complement this album, this and folklore.
Maybe
I think.
she's working on like a Beyonce type of like visual album.
Visual
She
album.
made a whole music video or mini movie about it. You know, we don't know. We will wait and see. At this point, we just can't predict anymore what she will do.
Hindi natin alam next episode natin, next Swift episode natin.
Yeah,
So,
it just
abangan.
comes and goes. I was like, hey, Nat, are you free to do this now? And thankfully she was. So thanks for discussing Evermore with me. Now we're heading towards our last bit of the show, which is our pops up or our top picks and recommendations for anything pop culture that we have consumed recently. Personally, I have not actually seen anything different or anything new in the last episode, since the last recording rather. And so napag-usapan naman ni Nat na we will be talking briefly about Drag Race season 13. Because it's just so good. You can't choose a queen that will be eliminated because they're all
Yeah.
really, really good.
I'm a Denali stan.
Oh my
right
gosh,
off the
yes,
bat.
Denali.
She can perform the house down. I think right like previous season, it's again a strong cast because I think they saw how successful the previous season was. That they wanted a certain level of star quality and social media presence. Like what I love about Denali is aside from what what we see on the episode, she posts the dance videos rin. So she makes such an effort to deliver these video clips of her performing and parang like I'm getting a sense nga na baka nga front runner nga siya or finalist and that they're for the campaign. But in general, I think that you have a strong cast, very interesting. I think I love the performances so far, especially the first two episodes. I haven't watched the UK season, both the first and the second now, but I'm really enjoying this cast so
Yeah,
far.
I mean,
so far no drama, but yeah.
just when you thought na parang, okay, how else would you want to get interested in Drag Race? Because there's just so much Drag Race. There was Celebrity Drag Race, Canada's Drag Race, UK, RuPaul's Drag Race UK, magkakaroon na rin ng RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under. But they just level up and you just want to keep watching because the queens are just so good and it's just so addicting. I guess that's the beauty of RuPaul's Drag Race na it's very unpredictable also. Similar to Taylor Swift na, you never know what's coming next, all the gags, all the twists, and how good everyone is, but you just keep on getting impressed. And I agree, Denali is my fave at the moment. Because have you seen that When I Grow Up ice skating video?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So that's what I meant by those videos nga, that she's building a fan base and you see what's on TV. Actually nga, like I think nga it was unfair so spoiler for the last episode. I felt like it was unfair to put her in the bottom. It was a setup. That's rigmarole.
Honestly, if we can just like
Diba?
get her in the bottom every week, I wouldn't mind to see Denali lip sync.
Diba? You have lip sync assassin anyway. Have her send everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much my recommendation. If you can go check Drag Race out, if you haven't ever watched a Drag Race season, then I guess season 13 or season 12 even is a good place to start.
They're very accessible. Yeah, that's true. It's very good for a starter. That's true.
Ayun, so that pretty much ends our episode. Thank you so much, Nat, for being here all across the globe.
Anytime.
I'm glad to have you back when you want. When
Isang
you
tawag
ask me.
lang yan.
Sige, damihan pa natin yan. Pag Drag Race Season 13, sumama ka
Sige.
naman sa episode para masaya rin.
Sige,
tayo.
sige. Yeah. After all, napaka-in-demand ng Swift episode mo. May one person tayo
The
asking.
Nathania Chua stan who is requesting for this because the reach of Miss Nat Chua is undeniable. So, again, thanks for being here. And to everyone listening who are Swifties, thank you so much for tuning into our traditional Taylor Swift release episode, even though it comes a bit later than the usual na maybe a week or two after. It's been pretty much a month at this point. But thank you for listening. And of course, you can listen to all our previous episodes of Popcorn, including our folklore episode and lover episode. That's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you stream your podcast. Of course, we're here on Radyo Katipunan every week. Thank you so much, the Radyo Katipunan fam. And if you want to go follow us on social media, that's at Popcorn with Cholo, at Popcorn with Cholo on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And go rate us everywhere, follow, subscribe, and refer to your friends so they can join in on the conversation. Thanks again, and we'll all see you next time. Bye!
Bye.
This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek, Cholo as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn. Munch in with us every Thursdays from 4 to 6, only here on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.